So in this video I'm going to speak about 3 areas that make it a real challenge to lose weight after the age of 40, 50 or 60, specifically if you are a woman, and what you can do about that to actually start to get the results you want. Now you may be wondering, who the heck am I and what gives me the right to speak about this topic? Well, my name is Eric Simpson. For over a decade now I've been working offline and online with busy professional women, helping them to lose anywhere between 30 and 50 pounds plus. For example, the lady you can see on screen right now, Sue, she was able to take off 71 pounds. This lady, Marie, right at the start of her menopause, was able to take off 56 pounds. And this lady here, Gaynor, was able to take off 85 pounds, going through arguably the busiest time of her life. So let's dive into what these 3 areas are and then talk about the steps that you can take to start getting the results you want. So number 1, your body changes, and we all know that, but specifically what's changing? Well, I already touched on the fact Marie, when she came to me, she just started the menopause, which is, I know, a huge change for most women, more for some than others, but it's still a significant change. So addressing her diet, addressing her sleep, addressing how she exercised, giving herself some time off to de-stress, all of these things help with the menopause. Fortunately for her, it actually was a positive impact. For some other women, they may need to take additional steps on top of the steps that Marie took. The other thing with your body that's going to change is your metabolism. So we lose lean body tissue, muscle mass. As we lose that lean body tissue, our metabolism drops, which means basically our ability to burn calories at rest and when we're working is decreased. So we need to sort of turn the tables on that by doing some form of resistance training, which I recommend all of my clients do, but at the right level. And then the third thing is, if we're not using our bodies for, walking, doing exercises, some sort of resistance training, we are going to become more prone to injury. And when we become prone to injury, that's one of the things that can actually put us off from doing exercise, and we become fearful, especially if it's something like lower back pain or shoulder pain or knee pain. So we need to do the right sort of exercise that's not going to cause injury, that's actually going to help us to build our bodies back up again. And then the second area to take a look at is your lifestyle. And this is more of a mental thing as opposed to a physical thing, although you're putting physical time into it. So first of all, you've got family commitments. And once you hit the age of 40, 50, you've typically got elderly parents, and you've also got kids that may be in their teens, late 20s, and your time is divided between both of them. And if you've got elderly parents, like for example Gaynor had, she was doing a full-time job but also traveling backwards and forwards to a hospital to look after both of her, not look after, but visit both her parents, who were both in hospital at the same time. Eventually came out of hospital, but she was still having to put a lot of time into helping them. So family commitments tend to change the older we get. We can get pulled in different directions. So one of the things that Gaynor had to do was learn to put herself first rather than putting herself at the bottom of the list, which is what a lot of women do. They put themselves at the bottom of the list, not even on the list, and they find themselves being pulled in all different directions. You then got your work challenges. Again, I use Gaynor as an example there. She was a busy professional running a business, employing over, I think it was 80 staff, multiple suppliers, running several different nurseries, and getting her business ready for sale, whilst at the same time looking after her parents and helping a daughter, or one of the daughters, finishing off uni, and one of them getting ready to get married. So talk about commitments, talk about being pulled in different directions. She was still able to take off 85 pounds. How? Just by putting herself at the top of the tree in terms of looking after herself. Exactly the same as what I just said a second ago with family commitments. If you're not looking after yourself, you cannot be of any use to your family, because you become part of the problem as well, or part of the challenge. And then you've got social events. We all like to, let's say all of us, some of us like to get out and socialise with our family, our friends, and that often comes with some sort of indulgence around food. And it's very difficult to be sat there and other people are indulging in all of these foods that we like to eat, drinking alcohol, eating cake, crisps, biscuits, crisps, whatever it is for you, whether you're sweet or savoury, and to sit there on the sidelines and not actually get involved in that. So one of the things that I ask my clients to do and work with them on is just changing their perception of what's going on around them, because until you change your perception, until you change what those things mean to you, and I don't mean completely do I hate eating chocolate, I hate eating crisps, not that sort of thing, but it's changing your priorities. It's working out what's most important to you and putting that at the top of the list. And by doing that, suddenly, internally, you're not as drawn into all of these sort of food fests that people can find themselves in. And then it's the approach that you may have been taking over the last several years, maybe over the last few decades, in an on and off sort of way. And that is what I call the all or nothing approach. That's where you go full tilt at everything. And that might be to massively increase your cardiovascular. You know, people talk about doing 10,000 steps a day, which on the face of it sounds good, but in reality, most people simply cannot do that. And if you haven't been doing 10,000 steps regularly, to go from maybe less than a couple of thousand steps a day to that amount of steps in a day, you're probably going to get injured if you do that. So that's not a great approach. And then you've got eat less, and eat even less again. So you may go from what you're eating now, slash that in half, you go down to 1,000 calories, you then go down to below 1,000 calories, and you honestly believe that the only way you're going to lose weight is by eating just 500 calories a day, which is not true, because I've had lots of clients who've eaten well more than 1,500, 2,000 calories and still been able to lose weight. So this idea of eating less, and less is simply going to add more physical stress to your body and mental and emotional stress to your body. So the ladies I mentioned right at the beginning, Sue, who took off 71 pounds, took on a Kilimanjaro challenge, did multiple Race for Life events. Marie, who took off 56 pounds whilst going through the menopause. Gainer, who lost 85 pounds whilst running a business and getting, looking after her parents and getting a business ready for sale. How did they actually go about doing that? Well, there were three things that I got them to look at and I coached them through over a number of months. First of all was putting themselves first. And that's difficult for a lot of women to do. It really feels like you are being selfish, and there can be a sense of guilt when you do that. But unless you're prepared to put yourself first and really look after yourself and not see it as being selfish, it becomes virtually impossible for you to have any sort of consistency. And you need consistency if you are going to shift the weight. Doing well for 1 week and then not doing well for 3 weeks is only going to set you back, and probably you'd be worse than when you started, or worse than what you were after that first week of doing some good stuff. So that's number one. Number two was to start where they were. I remember working with Sue when she first started working with me. She said to me, Eric, I'm not doing any exercise at all. But actually what she was doing was walking her dog every day. And she's walking the dog maybe for 30-40 minutes on a daily basis, or certainly 5 out of the 7 days. Her husband, he did a bit of walking as well. But I said, that's a brilliant start. It's a great start. You're walking for 40 minutes a day. And she totally dismissed that. So we took that and we built on the fact that she was doing something. And I can guarantee you right now, there's something that you're doing in your life. It may be quite small, you may not think it's significant, but there's something you are doing right now in your life that could be built upon. And she built on that, walking 40 minutes, 5-6 days a week. And she went on and lost 71 pounds and did a Kilimanjaro challenge. Now look, I get it, maybe you don't want to do a Kilimanjaro challenge. I had one client say to me, her goal was to be able to sit comfortably and play the piano. Well, fine. Whatever your goal is, that's your goal. And then the final thing that all three of them had to do, Sue, Gaynor, Marie, and any other client I've ever worked with, is I say, look, you've got to give yourself some grace. Why? Because you've probably spent the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years or more doing some sort of a diet, having some success, not having success, and in the main, not having success. Therefore, we've gone down this new path of looking at working on your mindset, looking at your nutrition, looking at your exercise, and working on how we can best fit all these three things together. Please don't expect yourself to be perfect. You're not going to be. You're going to have days where you're absolutely brilliant. You're going to have weeks where you're brilliant. You're going to have maybe a month or so where things just seem to be absolutely going fantastic, and then bang, something will happen that will knock you back a little bit. And it's at that point you need to give yourself some grace, because despite the fact you may be doing well for 2 or 3 months, the fact that you've been doing it another way, which wasn't beneficial for maybe 3, 4, 5, 10 years or more, that still has a big, strong hold on you. That you've got the ability to go back into that mindset relatively quickly if you're not challenged. And that's what I do with clients. I challenge them, I give them accountability or provide accountability, and we also discuss and talk through different strategies based on the individual I'm working with. And if that's something that appeals to you, there's a link in the description. You click on that and you can book in for a free consultation with me where we can talk about what it is you are looking to achieve. There's a bit of blurb about how I work with clients, and if it all makes sense, then yeah, I'd be delighted to speak to you. Until then, take care and bye for now.